Thank you very much for your active participation in the last 2 hours. I've spoken with the facilitators and some various participants, and again, we've been able to extract from what you've provided us a lot of qualities, a lot of competencies, a lot of areas where entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, political entrepreneurs must excel.
We got six top candidates here. One was have a conviction and ability to persevere. So the fact that you, as an entrepreneur, were able to first have some thought as to what you really want to do, and were able to just drive that through was important, and not just let it go by the wayside. Second, learning ability, not necessarily the rapidity of it, but just being able to individually learn from experience. Secondary to this, something that was articulated was about organizational learning. So not just an ability for you as the individual to learn from your experiences, but then be able to turn that learning into something for the organization. Third was ability to match technology to user needs. So it got into a bit of identifying what market needs were, an ability, one ability. Second is an ability to develop technology, but the real strong ability here that was critical of success was being able to marry those two.
Totally mixed together, and so...
Fourth, being able to identify gaps in the market, and I think that really ties in with the one above it, to identify the gap and then tie the technology to it. Next, ability to open and create opportunities, not just necessarily recognize opportunities that exist, but to actually help create those, tease out opportunities by finding these gaps and finding ways that you can create something and create a mechanism for you to develop value. And finally, ability to communicate that vision and dream to people who you're trying to hire, people who work for you, and to the market. So the ability to really talk about this and impassion those around you to this vision and dream were very important.
This is the output of our discussion. When you look at this, you probably thought, what did they do all afternoon? It was a spirited discussion, and this is a condensed version of it. The interesting thing is, this is in the order of how it was voted. I was putting pressure on the members in our room not to come up with labels that everybody already knew and read in 300 articles. So you probably see it more closely along the comments that we got from the stories. Now, interesting is enough, when we put this group together, we thought we would primarily have North American members. The 4 stories we listened to was a story from Hong Kong, a story from the US, a social story, entrepreneurship story from Canada, and a story that started in Hungary and eventually percolated into the US. So the starting point is quite diverse. And so you see that first commit, then work it out, got the most votes. Then we have identifying opportunity from a problem. So not just simply saying identifying opportunity, but we were struck with somebody faced a problem and then turned it, and from there identified an opportunity. Comfortable with ambiguity was often mentioned. Of course, here is one, knowing when there's enough information to make a decision is probably also something that is a little bit different as a label. And then build the effective team and extended boundaries. Now, there is one interesting thing about it, is that the item that caused, in my view, as a moderator, the most discussion did not make the list. And the item was risk. And we couldn't totally agree how to formulate that, and whether entrepreneurs avoided risk, calculated risk, managed risk, whatever else. But whatever we had on there in the end, to me, that was really quite interesting. Risk did not get voted on.
What's interesting about, I think, the free market is you get the sense of kind of jumping in, uncertainty. And I think the reason that risk didn't come out is it wasn't as much of a factor. And and I think about that U-shaped curve with the GEM data, and if we're saying that the free market, you tend to be over on the right-hand side, you maybe resources are available, you have infrastructure, you have, Hong Kong, more economic freedom, less things constraining you. Look at this, we're going to jump in and work it out. We're going to, take this it's just, I see this as more of an opportunity, whereas the one before, I see it maybe a little more cautious, more learning, adapt. Maybe it's more incremental. I don't know. I'd like to hear other impressions, but I can see a difference between these two factors.
Very good process, very positive bunch of people, 19. We came up in our group with the 3 top ones. Clearly, 18 votes for have a passion, have a vision, and empower people. The risk was not even mentioned. It was not listed in the raw items. So at the end, we had an afterthought, say, hey, how about risks? So we had a quick discussion, and we agreed that managers don't like risks. They're just not too adverse to risks, and they manage risk pretty well. So the 3 top ones in our group were to have the managers, the entrepreneurs must have a passion, must have a clear vision, and must empower people both within the organization and empower the people with whom they work. And then Dan's group, you want to comment on the others?
Well, what we saw was, we were talking about opportunity and seeing opportunity. What we saw with the group there was we saw many stories where people saw an opportunity, but within a crisis situation or turbulent times. So in fact, external crisis created an opportunity, which is often the case, and it was really the ability to uncover that in a crisis, and it was a very important point. That was the ability, if you will, or the competence that allowed that probably to happen is the second one after that, which is creative thinking. So creative thinking, creative problem solving came up as something very important.
Not to see the financing issue in any of these slides, because I strongly believe that those entrepreneurs, in quote unquote, who are complaining not having access to finance are not entrepreneurs. The problem of the world is not that there is not enough financing. The problem of the world that it was too easy to get financing. and rather.
But I think one area that we haven't mentioned at all that's critically important, and that's the role of the mentor, the advisor, and the role model within our economies and within our communities. Yeah. We know from studying this that the companies and the entrepreneurs that have a wide variety of advisors around them, a number of people that are 5 years ahead of where they would like to be, that they're going to be more successful. And when I look at this group here that we brought together, this group is full of people that are great role models and great advisors to be able to kind of put that hand back and to bring a lot of others up behind them. And that in itself, of course, is part of that social give back. So I think that's an area that we should kind of keep in mind, is how we encourage that and how we take advantage of that as we're building our entrepreneurial economies.